Good morning, everybody. Congratulations on getting out of bed and getting here this morning. Seems to be quite difficult to do. I'm going to talk to you about stablecoins. The truth is, I think stablecoins have won, and that conversation is over. We processed $5 trillion on-chain last year. Stablecoins moves at the speed of the internet, and people actually use them in the real world, which is product market fit 101. So I think stablecoins have won, but what really happens is the coordination rails is what the hard part is, because I feel like the system is quite fragmented. And I'm going to talk to you about that today. So if I start with a little bit of a story, let's say there's a city, and in that city is one bus company. In that one bus company, they sell one ticket. You can get around the city, but it's not that it's convenient for you. And then as the city grows, you get 10 bus companies and you get 10 different tickets. What happens there is it's great for competition, but a terrible, terrible customer experience. To get across town, you need 3 different tickets now, and you lose a little bit of money and a little bit of time every time you're swapping buses. This fragmentation leads to the mayor saying, okay, guys, you've got to stop. What happens? He says you can compete on service and comfort, but you're going to share one unified ticket. And this is where we're at the moment with stablecoins. Stablecoins is in a position where there are many different stablecoins, but you have a fragmented system under the hood, because the rails that have been built are super fast, super convenient. People are transferring money across borders. This works. So, as I said, 46% of Latin Americans actually use crypto for stablecoins. Not for speculation, they're actually using it in the real world. You've got a similar number in Africa as well. So people are actually starting to use stablecoins in their everyday life. Somebody at the Ethereum Foundation can't open a bank account and we pay them in stablecoins, and they have to actually use that to pay their rent, to buy their groceries, to send home to their parents. Stablecoins has become life-changing for a vast amount of people. There's still 120 million people in Latin America that don't have a bank account. There's this concept in banking called the singleness of money. So we've actually been here before. What happened in the 1850s is you used to get the Bank of Boston issuing Boston dollars, Bank of Charleston issuing Charleston dollars, and they would all trade at different discounts depending on how much you trusted that bank and how much the net worth in that area was. So in 1913-14, you had the Federal Reserve was created to unify this system and bring it together. So it stopped a lot of the slippage problems. So this is history repeating itself in another way. Oh, I slipped a slide. So what actually is stablecoins in terms of it's actually a messier system at the moment, but ideally in one way, stablecoins is fully transparent, fully reserved, and in some aspects safer than current bank deposits. Whereas bank deposits, they run on credit risk lending, and the actual system of fractional reserve is the business model of banks. So in one ways, we have to have a safer options for citizens around the world to already use. However, without the coordination rails, it's actually doing a disservice to all of those users. And that's where I think we can have an opportunity to correct the system before it goes too far. So why are there so many different stable coins? Why is there USDT, USDC, PayPal's one? Why is there DAI? Because owning the rails and owning the full stack is just too tempting. If you can own the payment rails, the architecture it runs on, and the stablecoin, you get the liquidity moat, you get a lot of power, and you get to extract value from all of the users. That is why this is springing up at the moment, and you're seeing a ton of different stablecoins all competing for each other. And it's the system that we live in. You've got one stablecoin that paid around $900 million last year to a major exchange to own that distribution moat. That is fantastic for one company's P&L, terrible from a competitive aspect and terrible from a user's perspective as well. So I see this could go 3 ways with stablecoins. It's a winner takes all. it's incredibly centralized. You have got the full stack owned by somebody, and we're back to paying Western Union rates around the world. Then you've got the second one where it's permanent fragmentation. So you have a lot of innovation in this space, you have a lot of creativity, but then you also have a bad user experience. Every time they swap between stablecoins, it becomes a bad user experience. Or the third option, I like to call coordination rails, is where it's very similar to the internet. You have many implementations across one standard. It's frictionless for different stablecoin issuers to move across one another. And they all set a standard of what a dollar means. So there's not the discount issue that we had in the past as well. So if we were to compete on service, which would be a concept for a lot of enterprises out there, and this keeps the competition there as well. Keeping competition and innovation at the forefront of all of the coordination efforts will stop centralization, plus also mean the customer keeps on getting served better and better. Because this is where I see a big danger zone of lots of companies are currently trying to own the full stack, whether they're acquiring companies or building their own infrastructure out. They will extract value from all of the users, and we've only ended up building a Swift 2.0 with new tech behind it, and we haven't achieved anything. So this is a really big danger zone that I see. And I think if we are able to get ahead of the coordination rails, we can build a resilient and decentralized system that invites many stablecoins as well. So why is Ethereum important in this? Because as a neutral ground, I've been asked 6 times in the last 2 weeks, will Ethereum ever have its own stablecoin built into the protocol? That goes completely against Ethereum's philosophy. And in terms of what we want to do is we will never bake anything like that. We will never compete with a stablecoin. We will never compete with any providers. We want it to be a neutral layer that invites innovation and competition as well. So you have Ethereum not trying to capture all of the value. We want people building on top of it, in my mind. And this, in my own opinion, we want people building on top of Ethereum so they can take value and they can offer services that other people can come and compete with. And this is what keeps the system healthy. We've all experienced Web 2 where things have got more expensive and a worse service. This is where I think if we get this right, we can change that system forever. So invisible infrastructure. As you can see, that success actually looks quite boring of what we can do. You've got the application layer to the infrastructure layer, the user experience. They don't mind what stablecoin they're using. They don't mind what L2 they are on. The interoperability works. Once we actually get scaling correct as well, this will stop the constraint of developers, and they can build more innovation products as well. So the stakes I've talked about a little bit. If we succeed, we end up with an open innovation, open protocol where anyone can come out with a stablecoin, where anyone can compete with big player and a small player. If we fail, we end up with Swift 2.0. We end up with a centralized function under a new wrapper. Sure, it'll be faster, but it'll turn out to be just as expensive in the long run. And this is where I think everyone is missing a lot of the coordination effort that these stablecoin companies and infrastructure companies need to be aware of. I'm looking for companies that don't want to own the whole stack. They want to own part of it as well, because it's too tempting in Web 2 to own the whole stack, to keep pushing margins out as well. Whereas I think this is something that, as a community, we're not talking enough about. So the internet has no CEO, and neither should your money, is my tagline. And I think if you think about what TSP over IP did for the internet, you've got many implementations across one standard. You should be looking at neutral infrastructure that's open and permissionless, and this grows the network. So should we be thinking about who owns the rails or who is growing the network? And that's a question I think would be great for you to think about, and I'm happy to talk about it more today as well. That is my last slide, and I have 25 seconds if anybody has any questions. No? Okay. Find me outside if you want to talk some more. Thanks very much.